let me tell it from the beginning and leave no parts out. Because that's how you learn that it's a process. It's not just a quick solution or a quick way. Hi, Joy Makers! It's Jordan! That's right, Joyfully Jordan. I am back with another vlog, finally, my debt-free vlog to share with you my journey to being debt-free and even how I got ahead on some of my most significant bills. But before we get into that, make sure that you subscribe, like this video, also make sure you interact in the comments, and of course, yeah, you can share it. So let's get to it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I believe this is going to be one of my most important and beneficial vlogs, not only because financial literacy is timeless, but also because it's relevant to everybody at some point in their life. So if you're a teenager, keep watching. If you're my age, in your early 30s, coming out of your 20s, in your 20s, keep watching. If you're older than that, in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and you have expenses, and it's money talk, so keep watching. But I guess I can start with just to give you a scope on the timeline that it took for me to build the debt that I acquired, and then also get rid of it and get ahead on some bills. So I'm 32 right now, and I became a homeowner at the age of 24. And at that time, I was only, 2 years out of college and not very knowledgeable about, I had never rented before. So I came straight from my parents' house to home ownership. It's my first home, and it's neither here nor there, but I did not know all that came with buying a home, other than needing to have good credit, of course, and being approved and keeping a consistent job to prove that you can pay for the home. But I thought, okay, I'm moving in, here I am, I've got my mortgage, my light bills, my water bill, my Xfinity, or my internet, everything else that comes with livelihood, grocery, all that stuff. What's the one thing that you didn't hear me mention as a homeowner? HOA. Totally disregarded it for months after I had moved in. That was my first biggest debt. And I know if you follow me on social media, Facebook, Jordan Riles, Instagram, Joy with Jordan, you saw where I posted and shared that I was debt-free, but I shared that I did not have any student loans nor credit card bills. And so some people were probably like, well, what was your debt? Because that's everybody's student loans and credit cards and emergency loans that they had to take out. So what was your debt? And so that's what I'm here to share. HOA was one of them. And I'll share that I did have a few credit cards prior. We'll get to that. But just to be blunt and transparent here, my HOA had built up so bad to where I was a couple thousand behind. And yeah, you're like, Jordan, what the heck? But no excuse, but I was not the only adult in my home at the time. So I could say that it was partially negligence or irresponsibility, but then ignorance on my part, because I just did not know. I wasn't used to paying these big bills. It was a shock coming from my parents' house where everything was taken care of there, and then being a full-time working adult before having a child and getting married, and then having all of these bills. It was like a crash course on adulthood, adulting 101. So that was about 6 years that it took me like 2 years to realize that the HOA had gotten so behind to where I couldn't bear it with the income that I had. I had a little savings, a couple hundred, but me even taking that out was not going to solve it right away. I had the HOA about to send me to court and all of that. And I think one thing that people don't know how to do is communicate in terms of their bills and their debt that they're responsible for. And that's really the first step that it takes, is reaching out to the payee or the responsible company that wants you to pay them, and letting them know that you are making a goodwill effort to gather what you know is due and try to negotiate some type of payoff based on what your bills are. And so one thing that I did that helped was I had written out my expenses, because also to refinance my home when I needed to do that, I made a budget. I had a spreadsheet of my expenses, and I was able to see how much I made against what my bills were, and either what was left over or what I was coming up short on for what my bills were totaling. And so when you refinance your home, that's something that you have to submit a clear spreadsheet to show them, to show the mortgage company that you qualify or that you are eligible to even refinance or have a lower payment on your home. So that happened years before I paid off the HOA. So I kept that same spreadsheet guide and went by that and contacted the HOA's attorney and the HOA and just stayed in touch with them. Basically, they said, this is the amount that's due and you have to pay this plus the attorney's fees that we have accumulated for trying to collect these fees from you. And so I was responsible for a significant amount, more than a couple thousand, almost $6,000 behind. Yeah, it was a mess. Yeah, it was a mess. And so when I got into a better situation where I was making more, I was able to save once I paid off my HOA. And I know that many people use their tax return to shop, to maybe start businesses, but not many people use their tax returns to save or to pay off debts or to get ahead on bills if they are financially stable. And so I used part of my tax return in addition to what I was making, where I was making more, and I was able to pay off that HOA with a check and take it into the attorney's office plus the attorney's fees. And so it was just getting in a better situation to be able to pay to make more, because sometimes it's not that you are not managing your money right, but you need to make more. And so you need to seek out opportunities where you can market yourself and get job placement to make more. And people have different opinions about that. Some people say, well, no matter how much you make, it's about how you manage it. But your bills are your bills. Your mortgage or rent, those other expenses that come with living are going to be there, no matter how much they are. So you're either overspending or you're underpaid. I was underpaid because only 6 months after my new career, I was debt-free. I didn't need to spend less. I needed to make more. And that was the answer to the solution to my debt freedom. Some people are overspending and some people are underpaid. And you have to figure out which one you are and find the solution to that. Either cut some bills, which I also did, or find other streams of income. We are also learning now in this society to never only have one stream of income. That's just not, I don't care how much you make in your traditional career, in your corporate career, or in your job. Being bivocational, like someone said, is being blessed. And so we've got to get after our resources. There's so much out there. And I'm still learning about that too. everybody's expense story is different, but the fact of mine was that I had to make more. I couldn't adjust my bills now having a toddler and being a single mom and being employed, but also being an entrepreneur, but not really knowing when the next presentation or speaking engagement would be. And so entrepreneurs know what I'm talking about. And so also with entrepreneurship, you have to plan out or kind of project what you're going to make or what you need to make ends meet, especially if you're a full-time entrepreneur, which I was not at the time, could not afford to be at the time, like I am now. And so the HOA was the major debt that I had that I mentioned being free of. And that was a major weight off of my back. I think that one of the main causes of stress is finances. One of the main causes of a lot of relationship issues and friendship issues is finances. That's a big part of life, and tackling that and conquering that and managing that is a big feat. So HOA was one of those. Now, I mentioned credit cards, which was not the issue with me recently becoming debt free. But when I was in college, my first credit card was a Victoria's Secret's credit card. And I would spend up like a couple hundred, maybe 200, and then I pay it off. Because when I had my first bank account, my mom was the co-signer on that. And so if I spent wrong or if I overspent in my account, she would tell me, oh, you're messing up my credit because my name is on that account. Me not knowing any better that account didn't really have much to do with credit, but it was just my spending habit that she was making me aware of. And so I had the Victoria's Secret card, and she was just reminding me to pay it off. And I finally got rid of that because I just stopped being a fan of the store. And so my next credit card, though, came later when I worked at another retailer, Dillard's, and I would just shop and use my discount, but we'd have to use the credit card. And once I left the retailer, I still had that credit card that I needed to pay off. And so I just tackled it. If you read up on getting rid of debt, you always should pay more than what the minimum payment is. And that's what I made sure to do. Even when I wasn't making much at my previous job, not making much at all. And it was a state job, so that, your salary was public, so people could see what you were making. And I was not making much at all, but I made it work, and my bills were always covered, and I was able to pay off that second credit card.
So, in regards to credit cards, I did purchase a new Mac laptop for $1,300 over the summer and paid 54% on it up front, so $700 of it. Then I paid the remainder off within the next 2 months, so I broke the remainder into 2 payments. I also had to get all new tires right after Christmas and put those on a credit card for $700. It's ridiculous how small the minimum payment is. $35 a month? You never want to pay anywhere near just the minimum when it's that low. So I paid at least $100 to $200 a month and paid that off within 4 months during my earlier short-lived full-time entrepreneurship.
Some people also think that people who know me or think they know me probably were like, okay, so she didn't have student loans, she didn't have credit cards. What was her debt? And it was HOA, as I said. Or she probably, another thing that a myth that I want to debunk is, oh, her parents probably helped to pay it off. No. My parents left me totally responsible to learn how to get through it. I shared with them what I owed and how I was behind. And it's great to have their support, but I had to take care of that debt on my own. And that's why I'm so proud, because I was able to tackle that on my own and not be in the hole. And so once I got rid of that HOA debt, I was able to get ahead on my mortgage a month and consistently pay my mortgage ahead and save. Once I got rid of that major debt, thousands of dollars underground, I was then able to come up for air and start putting money in my savings from what I was making and be able to self-care properly. Spa, stretching, yoga, waxes, take my child somewhere, go eat, also buy food that was healthy on this journey to veganism. And so, financial literacy is something that we all talk about. We wish we were taught in school, even not being accounting majors or marketing majors or business majors. I was communications. And so I wished that financial literacy was like a prerequisite instead of in addition to the algebra and the foreign language. Financial literacy, but that comes with having teachers and professors who would be willing to teach that and give those assignments and talk about investments in stocks. And I'm talking about 2 students who were not marketing, business or accounting or finance, but all majors. And so I remember that my dad gifted me this Financial Literacy by Chad Foster, Financial Literacy for Teen. At the back of it, it says, this book was read by name, date that you started, date that you ended. I started the 1st of this month at the age of 32, and I am passing that book on to my daughter as soon as she turns 14, 15, even before, because that book has so much of the basic information that now you kind of know, but you wish you knew earlier. Now you know in your late 20s and early 30s and mid 30s and sometimes your 40s, and people learn different things at different times, and most of the time we learn by trial and error. A lot of it I learned by trial and error. And so it's just good to have that education on our finances. It's not taboo to talk about it. And that's why I wanted to kind of share my journey and my struggle and how I overcame that and the steps I took to getting debt free. So some people might ask, well, what if I am not in the situation to make more? I just cannot find the opportunities or the doorway, the open door to make more. I would say start with that budget sheet, that expenses spreadsheet where you lay out all of your bills and look at what you can eliminate. I had to do that as well. Netflix had to go without for a while. Didn't have Disney Plus till just recently. And had to learn how to adjust my thermostat so that it wouldn't overheat or overcool. Like, there were so many hacks I had to research or talk to the different companies about to find out how to save more on my bills that I knew were inevitable. And so write out your expenses, find out what you can cut, create a village or like a roommate type of system where you can split things if possible, which I could not. So it was just me and my child. And if I could not afford my home, I would have had to sell it. That was the other thing. There are foreclosed homes. If people are looking for home ownership, and look, don't get me to talking about the market now in 2022. I'm not really savvy on that. So contact your closest realtor for that, plug for whoever. So there were just a few things, on my side, but no matter how many pros you have on your side, pros versus cons, you still have to be responsible and you still have to be intentional and aggressive with paying those bills and tackling them and getting ahead if you can once you come out of that debt. So I hope that this has helped, and I hope that I gave a few tips that will give you a start to aggressively tackling some of the debt that you do have, and also encourage you on your journey to debt freedom. We're in this together. There are lots of forgiveness programs during the endemic that are being offered, no matter what your income level, because we're in a pandemic. So reach out, and do your research. reach out to resources. There are resources everywhere. Find out where they are, and get that help that you need to get your expenses to be on a level that works for you, so that you can be on the journey and get to the point of debt freedom, stay afloat, get ahead, save, and even invest. Thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe if you have not already. Share this, like, comment, share some other tips that you may have that I may not have touched on. Thank you so much. It's been Jordan. Joyfully. Bye.